The Courier Post, Clerk of the Township, the district's website, and members of the Board of Education. It was also posted in the Board of Education office, 17 Ariel Road, Blenheim, New Jersey. And please note that this board meeting may be audio or videotaped. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carr.
Here.
Mrs. Dentino. Here. Mr. Fontanez. Mr. Gagliari.
Here.
Mr. Gala.
Here.
Mrs. Johnson.
Here.
Mrs. Gilch. Here. Mrs. Reed.
Here.
Mrs. Reese.
Here. Okay, well, bear with us all. This is a new agenda. We would have the approval of the minutes, but we won't be doing that. This is the workshop, so we'll go on to the report of the solicitor. Mr. Long.
Nothing to report this time, Madam President.
Thank you. Report of the superintendent. Mr. Rondo.
Good evening.
Hello.
Mrs. Reese, how are you?
Well,
I have a question. Since this is all new, do you need anyone to give a dime store tour of what we have in front of us, or do we just want to go through it, and if there's questions, we have them at the end?
we can do that.
We can do that?
We can do that.
Okay, because I know that both Mrs. Ridgway and Mrs. Forsythe have met quite a bit with county officials on this format, and we've kind of adopted it for this evening. So with the superintendent's report, I will just state that in the first item, there's nothing to discuss. Something new to this format is item 4.2, which is the monthly by building type of drill that transpires. You will see that happening each month now. 4.3, I believe the board was all delivered the HID investigations for the month of February. Is that accurate, everyone?
Correct.
As soon as the attachment, anyone have any issues with that, so I can let Mr. Mercado advance those things? Okay. There are soon to be a second reading of policies, and Mr. Gagliari, if I might, just because of recent weather events, I know that you've been active. We do have a policy committee meeting scheduled this week, correct?
Tomorrow, yes.
Tomorrow at
4:30.
Thank you, sir. You're doing good as I leave those hanging softballs for you to hit. So tomorrow policy, thank you, that was 4.4. 4.5 is again school-based volunteers. Speaking of which is a nice segue, I think we eventually have to revisit that because that is a laborious, Mr. Capone was a much younger man when we didn't have to do this stuff. Okay, so I think that, Mr. Long, didn't you give a pro forma of what we might be able to do there? On volunteer, school volunteer?
Yes, I gave. I drafted I'd say about 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think I gave you. Can we break? Yeah. 4.6, we have special services. 4.7 would be where we approve the tuition students, and we don't have any at this point. That will be in the future, just so everyone knows, that will be a student identification number, or SID. There will be no longer initials for students. Under personnel, I think we can skip down to C. We have a 101 aid resignation. We will have retirements, one from Ariel School. Approval professional development. I don't know if anyone reviewed that. If you have any comments or questions. In F, just to keep with the new format, as an explanation, when we have a new individual doing something, we will list their name initially, and then they will possess a number, correct, Mr. Capone?
Yes.
A employee number, and then any actions on that employee henceforth would be a number.
It's on the back.
It's on the back of the volunteer.
Okay, all right, I missed it then, I'm sorry. Okay, that's fine.
Okay,
I just.
I have a suggestion,
Yes.
maybe, I don't know,
go ahead.
because there's so many policies that come, yeah, and I'm assuming that's gonna continue to be the case because of all the policies being reviewed. Is there a way maybe that we could just separate them? So, I mean, the policies are the policies, and then everything else would probably be not such a big
Attached
step.
together, maybe.
Yeah.
You want that as a separate,
Is
Like,
that okay? I mean,
that's
Is there an
okay.
attachment?
we can put,
Yeah.
I don't wanna mess up your numbering system or anything like
It
that.
wouldn't, because that would be the first one basically to go off, so that would be not an issue at all.
Well, there would be an odd chance that it may not be two-sided, okay? But if everyone can live with that, then certainly it can be a separate product.
All right.
Okay. Again, this is the first time we're kind of launching
Yeah, no,
this, so
I'm good,
we're,
I'm good, yeah.
we're gonna have a little growing pains.
Yeah, it's just a thought, cause it won't even be an issue once all the policies.
No, I think it's a good.
No, he's gonna still do it two-sided, he's just saying that,
Under new business,
if it
okay.
ends up odd, it might not be so good on one of the sides, but definitely still do it two-sided.
Okay, there are, leaves of absences in 4.8H, and there are terminations in 4.8J. I know that I had spoken to at least the Special Services Committee this evening. I know that Mr. Capone has launched a review on how we can increase or obtain resources that we are frequently losing. That would include both options to obviously hire staff as well as outside agencies that could offer staff. So that will be forthcoming. I don't have that for the board tonight.
Now, I don't see terminations. I see leaves of absences.
Jay, it's listed there on the page.
It's actually on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
It's
It's not, oh,
Yeah, if it doesn't require an attachment, then there's a few of them that's going to be listed.
oh, sorry.
They don't always, it doesn't always automatically move to another
You're talking
document.
about the approval of termination?
Yeah,
Well, I just asked them this then, I don't know if anybody heard me, why
Yeah.
there's not a SID number next to them instead of their initials.
The reason
But
why there's
they never
initials-
completed their required paperwork.
Yeah, so they're never entered into our
Right,
system.
and that's what I was just
That's
told,
why
so
we have-
that's why, if anybody heard me ask, that's what I asked.
So they're technically employees or?
They're on the substitute list, we always, it's on every month and says, if they complete all required paperwork, it's on the top.
So then they go to
Then
the
they're
system
hired,
and get a
we
number.
approve them.
technically, if you hired them and they never show, we still need to technically escort them through the curve.
Right.
Okay, but Mr. Capone is saying that because they actually never worked, our system never produced a number for them. Now, if this was someone like Mrs. McDermott, not to pick on anyone who wants to be, not terminated, that would be a bad idea. But anyone that has been here for and established a number, that a number would be there.
Okay, so this is a
Thank you
formality
for being,
to
you know, my,
have us approve their terminations.
Yes,
Okay.
because they were approved, so now we have it.
And we
okay.
never, so that's why I just asked why they didn't have a number, but now I'm okay with that, okay.
Okay.
4.9 is field trips. 4.10 is homeschooling a student. 4.11 is the homeless student approval. In this particular case, I'll be going to Burlington Township. In 4.12, the calendar. I did review what has been traditionally done here, and thank you, Mrs. McDermott, for bringing it to my attention, and I know several people evidenced it. So there is a new calendar for 15-16. The only change is a day in September.
Did we always have vote October 9th and 12th?
No, no, it's an in-service day on the 9th of October, and Columbus Day, which has not traditionally been recognized, although contractually it must be recognized in a few of our unions. This particular year, we are recognizing Columbus Day in the calendar.
So, does that mean we're going back to recognizing it always, or are you saying this year? is
Just this year.
different? It's just this year?
Depending on how the calendar falls, yes.
But it's just, you're in a contract year, so is that some, never mind, okay. Okay.
Okay? Um, 4.13 is the semi-annual violence and vandalism report. And Mr. Mercado will have a brief presentation at next Monday night's meeting, which he has to do. 4.14 is the semi-annual HIB, which is part and parcel to the violence and vandalism. So both topics will be presented next week. I know that the board had that information. And if there aren't any questions with that, I do, speaking of calendars, owe the Board of Education and everyone else for that matter, a revised 2014-15 school calendar. We have had now a grand total of 4 snow days, and it appears as though school will now end on the 17th of June. I would recommend that we will have full classes, barring any extreme type of heat or anything that I don't know of tonight, through that Friday, and then that week, which would be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, which would be the 15th, 16th, and 17th of June, would be single session days. I'll send that home with the board this Friday. Okay?
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Well, we've had 4 snow days. One of them was recognizing National Weatherman Day. That was the snow day we had no snow. That was when we were told we were gonna have historic snowfall.
I lost track of some of the delayed openings, maybe.
Thank you, Mrs. Thank you, Mrs. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on. Just, I don't know if this is the proper time to interject this, but just by what we just went through, this agenda is a product of, I guess, a QSAC review, and it's a recommendation that was made to us by the county superintendent. Being the first time that we went through it, I'm wondering if the board would have preference, like when we had the report of the superintendent, we see that he's moving forward items 4.3 to 4.14 for approval. Once he goes through everything, maybe that's the point in time when we should do questions. To circle what one you would have a
And go back
question
to it.
on, and then we would all go back
Yeah.
to the question. That way you could get through your portion. Okay, so then,
Well, can I ask you a question? If that is what the board prefers, would we just simply tell them, 4.1 through 4.14 are the recommended report of the superintendent? And then at that point, come back, if there are any questions then, instead of me reading through each workshop?
preference. I'm asking you.
I'm asking the board to.
Yeah, what's your preference?
I read them all at once, and
And
then
then
go
go
back
back
to
to
questions.
questions.
Yeah, and that's what I think.
Like I just did, or
Just
just say
for-
1 through 14?
If her purpose in giving us this
Okay.
Is to-
simplicity,
Right,
we're
I think,
complicating it.
right.
This is like, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
All right, well then that's how we'll move forward.
All right, were you
So
listening?
then we'll start with was I listening? Was that what you said?
No, I was talking to the board secretary.
So then we'll start with, we'll move on to the report of the business administrator, and I guess we'll look at them in one clump. Is
Look
that,
at them in one clump, there really is nothing right now, that will be next week. The board secretary and cash summary report would be 5-1. If there were line item transfers, that would be attachment 5-2. The payment of the bills will come differently. It was recommended under QSAC that we break out the payroll, the cafeteria, and then the remainder of it, which is called our general account. So you will see 3 different totals on there. Okay?
on the bill list?
On the bill list. It's
Okay.
now going to be separated by the output. 5-4, transportation, at this point we have nothing. 5-5, supply and purchasing, as well we have nothing. And 5-6, buildings and grounds, we have nothing at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Is that, is the board going to expect that anything that reads none now may change due to just the timing of this with the snow?
The timing with that, if there is something, it would be sent home in the packets,
Okay.
the same way we did that before.
Okay.
with the-
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to old business. Does anyone have any old business? Hearing none, new business? None, we'll move on to 8.0, which is public comments. Is there anyone that would like to address the board? If so, raise your hand and state your name. Yes, sir?
My name is Gavin Gallo. I live in Blackwood, New Jersey. My name is Gavin Gallo. I live in Blackwood,
Hi.
New Jersey, and I am in 4th grade at Cheese Elementary School. I have a suggestion for all Gloucester Township elementary schools. I went to a science fair at Union Valley Elementary. I think choosing all their elementary schools in the district should be able to have one too. Having a science fair will help kids learn and have fun at the same time. The school can get displays for each student that wants to participate. A student does not need to be a part of the science fair if he or she chooses not to. When the displays are passed out, the children can take them home and research what topic they want that interests them. Some examples of science topics are how the human body works, the solar system, and natural disasters. The students have to add facts, pictures, and explanations to their projects. If children want, they can use objects they experimented with to go with the display. The fair can be hosted in the cafeteria, and grades 3 to 5 can participate. I really hope the school board takes my idea and makes it a reality.
Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Gavin.
We will take that under advisement. That would be great, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time? Yes.
Angel McDermott, Long Beach Court, Blenheim, New Jersey. Reading through the policies, this is the second reading, and this one on wellness, can I assume that if this gets voted, that this will go into effect September, where each school should have a committee in place?
It's gonna take some time to implement. I would
Okay.
think that would be a fair measure.
Okay.
Because to do so now with the balance of park and then EOY and everything else, I think it would be somewhat of an impact to our operations to expect it before year's end.
Would it be something that will be publicized before the year's out, so that teachers have it in their head moving forward?
How about if you and I have a conversation and we'll,
Works for me,
okay.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Tom Crum, Gloucester Township. I have a couple questions. One, I'm going to ask you all to kind of jog your memories a little bit. A few months back at Mullen School, there was a meeting, and one of the teachers had presented his idea for setting up a greenhouse of some. Has that ever been discussed again, or has that happened, or is that something that's going to happen?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, by the head shaking and the nodding, is it in the process of being happening, or has it happened?
We- I
Mr.
know,
Crum, good
we
evening.
did.
Hello,
How are you?
Yes.
I am excellent. Yourself?
Good, on the greenhouse issue, we did have an educator, the board is aware of it, because I spoke to them. An educator had a passion to get some,
Yes, he did. As a matter of fact, he was very passionate.
and so the administration met with him to go over, I met with the facility supervisor to just where we're gonna put it, lay down. We're in the process of communicating and obtaining the permit, and then once the permit, if one is required, and also because it's inside one of our buildings, to just protect it from any unwanted people around the greenhouse, and the fire officials and where it has to be laid out. Well,
So it's typical municipal
just
bureaucracy
administrative,
has to be.
we have to get through that, and yes, the board has, for a couple of the things, agreed to partner with the educator to make it a success.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And to that end, he had mentioned at the time the product that was garnered from it would be sold and the money would go back to the school. Is that still something that's on the table to be discussed? A lesson in capitalism for our children, possibly?
What I was told in the meeting with that particular teacher was that, yes, they would grow plants, sell plants, and they would try to weave in even some of the special education population to assist with everything. And yes, the money raised from that would be turned back into the greenhouse for future operations.
So not only is it sustainable in the green sense, it's sustainable in the financial sense. Excellent.
Yes.
As you know, I've been critical of the board, but this is something I think is great and would hope it happens, and when it does, becomes very successful and we can share it in our other schools. I think it's a huge lesson. My other question has to do with what has been a contentious issue regarding the school resource officers. A few weeks back, Councilman Dan Hutchison, when questioned by a member of the public regarding the $240,000 payment, made a comment on the record, and there is video of it, and I'll make it available to anyone who wants to see it, accused this board of playing politics with the safety of the children. Now, I don't believe that that is correct, and again, I will defend this board. I believe this board has issues and that I have spoken about in the past. I do not believe that this board is playing politics with the safety of our children. I believe our township council is playing politics with the safety of our children. Has there been any further discussion? Now, I'm here as a taxpayer. I have 2 college-age kids and 1 in Timber Creek, so I'm here as a taxpayer and somebody who's funding this and getting nothing out of it, theoretically. Has there been a further discussion about the amount that the township is, for lack of a better way of putting it, shaking you down for? And for the record, I do not believe that the township should be charging the school district with the taxpayers of this town to have 2 police officers rove 13 schools. I really don't think that that's, I think that the police are here. We have a great police department, we have a SWAT team, we have canines, we have segways, we have golf carts, we have everything available to us. I don't understand the $300,000 being shifted around in the account. That said, has there been any further discussion?
I believe you were at our January meeting when we reorganized, and we did establish committees at subsequent to that meeting, as I said that we would. And we do have a security meeting that has been charged with letting us know what all our options are.
Okay.
So once that full report comes to the board, so yes, there has been committee work done. There has been no board action at this point in time, but it is an ongoing work in progress.
And I guess going back, thank you for that.
You're
And I
welcome.
guess taking one step back, was there ever a board vote on the $240,000 that was paid to the township?
Well, it was on the bill list, so yes,
It was on the bill list.
correct. So
Okay.
the board voted on
There
the
was
bill
no
list,
separate
yes.
vote, it was just dumped into.
In the December meeting,
We did separate?
We did separate.
We pulled it separate.
it
in the
separate,
December.
yeah, in
Okay.
So there was a separate vote on that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
My time has expired, I do have one other question, if anybody else wants to.
Well, let me see if anybody else would
Excellent.
like to speak first. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time?
I have a
Yes.
question. I am a
Sure,
new.
may I have your name, please?
Yes, Pauline from Blackwood.
Pauline?
Yes,
Okay. What is
and I live in Blackwood. This is the first time I'm attending a board meeting. I'm probably a day late and a dollar short, if you will, about the PAR testing.
Okay.
And I've heard a lot of negativity about it through teachers, through students, the outcome of it. What's it all mean? It's a new test. A lot of unanswered questions in it. Is it my right as a parent to refuse my child to take this test at this point? Because I called the school today and they said they're going to make a decision tonight about it. And as of today, they says there's no law. So I wrote a letter to Mr. Otten until it is smoothed out more, where the students aren't so stressed, the teachers understand it more. I'd rather see my daughter in the library helping out the librarian, doing her own work. She's an A student, but this test seems to be confusing a lot of people, staff included.
Okay, would you like to answer?
I did. First of all, thanks for coming out. I would recommend if you do have questions with respect to that assessment, the park assessment, that you speak to Dr. Acerba, who is our curriculum director. And I think that any of your questions, even anxieties, I mean, there are an array of issues out there
Right.
that have prompted questions. And before you make a final decision on whether to decide to have your child test or not test, I would at least give Dr. Acerba opportunity to answer your questions. And then ultimately, if you decide that she will be able to accommodate and get to the principal and work out your final decision.
Okay, that would be a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Mr. Crockwell?
Thank you. Going back, I guess it would be to the bill list that was brought up. I believe it was November in the bill list. And this is for the board, and I've talked to Mr. Bilodeau about this on several occasions, going back to the solar panel issue. Now, when this was introduced by the township, it was introduced as a shared service agreement between the two school districts and the municipality. And at the time, the sustainability and the credits that were being given for that were in the $600 to $50 per credit range. And it was very lucrative. I believe right now they're in the $100 range, maybe $70 range. They've gone as low as $60 most recently. Two questions. One, this is no longer a financial boon, it is a boondoggle. And will you be looking to exit from this agreement? And two, is this board, is this district using taxpayer dollars to pay anyone involved with the solar panels? It was supposed to be free. However, there was a bill in the November bill list that was going to one of the groups that was involved with solar panels. And maybe I misread something, but my hope would be that the board would read every single bill that's put in front of them. Is there any money, any taxpayer dollars going to this solar panel project for rent, for upkeep, for anything?
Mr. Crone, you had several questions.
I have many more, but
Let's go through them. Do
absolutely.
you have any others?
Well, let's just start with this and see what Pandora's box we've opened.
Well, the first question was a bill. You would, if you could do me a favor, reference that particular bill. I'm of the opinion that no one affiliated with that power purchasing agreement, and I'm unclear whether there's a power, I know there's a power purchasing agreement. I don't know if it's a shared service agreement and a power purchasing agreement. Okay?
Okay.
But your question is to our board's funds going to the company who assembled it?
Or anyone involved with it, whether it be
We-
Marina or,
We pay for electricity,
obviously, would that be Atlantic City Electric, like the rest of us do?
all of the above.
All of the above.
It depends on where the building is located, so we either have Atlantic Electric or PSE&G for our electric service. And Marina, who, as you referenced, was the person who won the award from the township.
But is Marina a utility?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
So I can go purchase my electricity through Marina?
Well, they produce electricity. I don't know if you can do that.
Okay, that's, I guess,
Actually, I think the
This is a
answer
very
is,
confusing
unless your
issue for a
property
lot
is
of people.
adjacent to one of our properties, the answer is no.
okay, so this is a private agreement you have with Marina that you're paying for electricity.
Well, we're buying electricity, and what is produced by the panels, there's a certain rate associated with.
Okay?
Now, the panels cannot produce enough electricity to power any of the physical plants.
Yes, that is correct.
So whatever isn't used, obviously, we are buying that electric from either Atlantic Electric or PSE&G. So where we used to pay two bills, either Atlantic Electric or PSE&G, we now have a piece of the electric demand each month going to Marina.
I'll stop you there for a second so we can have an addendum to the question. This was supposed to be a fiscally sound, money-saving opportunity. Is there any money, from what you're saying to me, I don't see any savings. I see the same amount of money being spent, but we have these solar panel arrays all over our schools. Is there a significant savings coming to the taxpayers of Gloucester Township for these solar panels? This is a $20 million project. Now, supposedly we didn't pay for any of this, and I'll take that at face value. The taxpayers were not on the hook for that $20 million. But somebody has to make that $20 million back at some point in time, and the solar panel Ponzi scheme has fallen apart over the past few years, for lack of a better way of calling it something. How much actual financial savings have the taxpayers of Gloucester Township gotten through these solar panels being on our schools?
We don't have that answer for you tonight.
Fair enough.
That answer, however, would be certainly dependent on the type of winter or demand from one period to the next. So prior to the solar panels being there, we had a certain demand, and let's just say the denominator is kilowatts. So if we, based upon temperate issues, had a reason to use either more or less electricity, you would have to have a common denominator on what you used before, how much did you pay versus what you're paying now. Because let's just say, for example, we paid $1 million of electricity prior to panels, and now we pay 1.2 million. I think it would be unfair to say that solar panels are a boondoggle. They might be a boondoggle.
I disagree with that, with your characterization. We were supposed to pay less, regardless. We're supposed to be
But
paying.
if you're running more
I understand
appliances
that, but
and taking more energy, that wouldn't necessarily be fair, would it?
it is and it isn't. It's a double-edged sword. If we're still paying
No,
more.
it is, because a kilowatt hour is a kilowatt hour. It's not
Well,
different.
then we need
If
to.
you're using
then
more
can you
kilowatt
give me
hours, you're gonna
not the
spend more
dollar
money.
amount. Can you give me the kilowatt hours that have been
What did you
used
get all his questions?
prior to and then following?
Okay.
Can we have all your questions
Yeah.
first, so Mr. Bildo's not, your questioning back and forth is eating into your time, unfortunately.
Well, it's fine.
So,
I can always.
do you have, I know
Well,
you had a
there's
second question.
Questions, but that is the second question. I mean,
Okay.
Where are we going from here, and what is the actual?
What the
savings.
savings is.
And if we're not going to, and Mr. Bildo is correct that we cannot talk in dollars because yes, this was a
Right,
very cold winter
because
and
of
I'm
the
paying
conditions,
more.
correct.
I just got my gas bill yesterday, you know, and it is very ugly, as most people's are. I get that. But I'm gonna look at the kilowatt hours just like you are on my bill. And I'm hoping that we can get the kilowatt hours for last year, same time, for this year, same time, and see where we are as far as the dollar savings on top of that. Because as this was given to the township, this was given to everyone from the mayor and the council and this board as well as Black Horse Pike, this was supposed to be a savings.
Correct.
Okay? Now, I don't care if Marina loses $20 million, it's not my problem, it's a private company. I want to make sure that not one dime, to quote President Obama, not one thin dime is spent on this, or to paraphrase it anyhow. I don't want a taxpayer dime spent on this. This is a boondoggle. Everybody knows it. Solar is not what everybody claimed it to be. If you got in early, you made a lot of money, and it's a Ponzi scheme. Everybody knows it. My
All right,
time
well,
has
thank you for
expired,
your
but I
questions.
would like to know the
Okay.
answer to the question, the kilowatt hours, and a dollar as well, dollar savings.
And that analogy, I mean, that analyzation is gonna take some time, but certainly we will, move forward to get your question answered.
I appreciate that it's going to take some time, but I guess, and I am technically out of order, however, according to Robert's rules, I still hold the floor, so I am not out of order. That's an unacceptable answer, Madam President. Someone should have been analyzing this all along, and if you haven't been analyzing this all along, I would hope that someone would do so and continue to do so moving
We
forward.
have analyzed it, and, we have asked the same questions, and we asked actually too early. So, you have asked, as Mr. Bildo and I have said, someone will work on it, and we will get an answer to you.
Can I have a time, that's an acceptable answer,
approximately
and
how
not
long?
acceptable answer, can I have a time frame on that?
I have no idea what the scope of that project was.
Let's take a look at it and then reach out to Mr. Crowe and give an answer.
Can you leave your name and your phone number with,
Everybody should have it, but okay, I'll leave it.
well, I don't have I have your name, I don't have your phone number,
Oh,
so
Mr.
I'm not
Miller
sure if
does.
Lisa does. But if you could leave it, then, they can investigate.
We keep losing it, Mr. Crowe.
I'm sure you do.
All right, we're gonna move on. Does anyone else want to address the board at this point in time?
Related question?
Or should we go for board member
Board-
comments?
Yeah, under board
No,
member
it was related to that,
comments,
that's why.
please. Does anyone else like to address the board at this time? Okay, then we'll move on to board member comments.
I've noticed in all the different school buildings that I've been in, I don't know if it's every school building, but I assume it is, the ones I've been in all have the monitors when you first walk in regarding these solar panels. And they, you know, from what I've seen, they look like they're telling you how much is being saved and how much energy we're getting. If they're all being monitored like that, and I mean, I see the numbers moving, is that information being compiled somewhere in like one central location, say this is, if we know what each school is saving, you just put it together. Like, where does that data come from? And where does it go? Is that something, like, could we get more information on that?
Yeah, we have to look into it.
So where did we put those monitors up?
No.
That was part of the original install.
So is it
So-
possible that we actually don't know at the school levels or the administration where that data is coming from?
Where that data is coming from or going
Well,
to.
meaning,
Yes.
correct.
Uh,
So it's in the sense that that's all out of our hands. Whatever's coming across those screens is not
The
from us.
software package was installed by, again, the vendor who installed the project. I will find out where the data, if it is retained, where it's going, and can they then give us reports on certain periods, what exactly by building they claim to have saved us.
And, yeah, could,
I mean, I would
Look
think
into that
if
and
the
find out
numbers
where-
are changing, that somebody has that data somewhere.
and where is?
Like I would think, I mean, I
I mean,
personally, that's what.
honestly, I'd like to know how that data is compiled. Is it just some random program that makes an estimate? Because when you look at it, it looks
Or is
pretty
it
official.
actual?
Or
Or
is
is
it
it
based
actual?
on reality?
Right.
That's a good question. I need to push that. Are there any other board member comments? No? Okay, we do need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mrs. Gope, seconded by Mr. Carr to move into executive session for
No action.
no action.
There'll be no action taken. How much time do we
That
have on
was
that?
just
It says 30 on
On the agenda.
Fine.
which matters are we going to discuss, Mr. President?
We are going to discuss an issue involving one of our students. We are going to be speaking of a contractual matter. We did have one issue that involved one of our collective bargaining, but that will not be discussed tonight, so I have a parental issue and a contractual issue. Okay, and
legal.
Unless there's,
well,
unless it fits one of the other reasons to go into executive session.
well, then we're gonna have another issue involving personnel.
Personnel issue.
Yep.
Social personnel. No, the one is the matter.
Yeah, one's contractual.
And the superintendent's
And the yes, that's personnel, superintendent
Add
evaluation.
three, please.
Alright, so we have 3 personnel.
Okay.
And no action taken other than to adjourn when we come out?
Correct.
We do need a roll call though, please.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mrs. Dentino,
Yes.
Mr. Gagliardi,
Yes.
Mr. Gallo,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Gilch,
Yes.
Mrs. Reed,
Yes.
Mrs. Reese.
Yes.
Thank
We
you.
shall be back in 30 minutes or we'll let you know. Thank you.